Welcome to Dating Déjà Vu, the podcast where we talk about your patterns, your pitfalls, and your personal growth in modern dating. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, marriage and family therapist and dating and relationship expert. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about your Valentine's Day sanity guide if you are single. Yes, we're going to walk through all things to do and more importantly, not to do this Valentine's Day. So if your relationship and love life has been a little bit of the same thing over and over again, it might be déjà vu, but it also might be you. So let's figure it out together. What's up, guys? Happy Valentine's Day week. Now, interesting thing about Valentine's Day is my husband and I don't usually celebrate it because we really believe that, we go on dates and we really enjoy spending time together and basically do the things that people do on Valentine's Day, like literally every weekend. We have tickets to the Broadway musical tours that come out here in Arizona. We already had a place scheduled. And so I thought, hey, we'll go get a dinner beforehand. And there's a new place out in Tempe we want to try. So we're doing that. But for you, this Valentine's Day, you may be single, right? And for some reason, this one day out of the year causes you to go into a full-blown spiral, make questionable decisions, and you act like being single is some sort of crisis on Valentine's Day. Spoiler, it's not. It's not a crisis. The first thing I want to talk about is how to avoid the self-sabotage trap. So on Valentine's Day, people will unintentionally make the day worse for themselves. Now, to understand self-sabotage, we have to realize that it is a psychological pattern. And it's a belief about yourself that then causes you to behave in a certain way. That behavior causes an outcome that normally we don't like. And that outcome causes us to feel a certain emotion, usually shame, guilt, disappointment, or loneliness, which only makes that belief about ourselves worse. And so I want to give you some tips on how to not get into that self-sabotage routine. So number one, we need to think about what we believe about ourselves because we're single on Valentine's Day. You might think I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving of love. Everyone else gets love but me, right? So you really just want to be aware of what you're thinking and be aware that that thought could potentially create behaviors that I'm going to talk about. And these behaviors, so you can either know the thought and reframe it like it's just one day. This doesn't mean anything about my ability to love. I am good enough. I am enough. And I will find my person one day. So you can start there, or you can work backwards from the behavior I'm talking about. So the first one is if you think I'm not good enough, then you go doom scrolling on every couple you know's post on Instagram. You log on to Instagram and you immediately feel terrible. You already felt terrible. Right? We already think I'm not good enough. Valentine's Day. And now you're sitting there watching someone's post of our first date at Starbucks 5 years ago, or happy Valentine's Day to my forever Valentine. I'm sure I've said some dumb shit like that. You're not going to feel good. You're not going to feel good. Now, that doesn't mean that you block all of your friends that are in relationships, but maybe just mute them, right? Maybe just mute them for a couple of days. You can do that. If you don't know how to mute, you can go into where it says following and it says mute, and it'll mute stories, mute their posts, and you can just do that. Or you can just log off and not go on Instagram, right? Because you and I both know that is not helping you, okay? So that's a behavior. If I start seeing myself doing that behavior, right? Then I say, okay, I'm in my not good enoughness. Or if you're feeling shame, I'm in my not good enoughness. I need to get out of it, which we'll touch on here in a sec. Another self-sabotage I see is people replaying their past relationships, right? So it's nothing like bringing up an ex because it's a Valentine's Day, right? Thinking about that guy from 5 years ago or that toxic ex that you know is not good for you. And you start to romanticize. You start thinking only about the good parts of that relationship and completely disregarding the fact that he was a narcissist and he gaslit you and he never spent time for you, or she was, not trusting. She, judged all of your friends and your behaviors, whatever. You also forget why you broke up in the first place, right? So we do not want to be thinking about our past ex. And more importantly, we're not going to text that person, happy Valentine's Day, which I'll talk about in detail here a little bit. Again, we catch ourselves in that behavior of romanticizing the ex. I want you to think about, okay, I'm going into what I've lost. I'm creating this fantasy. Remember, guys, focus on facts instead of fantasy or fears. Creating this fantasy of this relationship, which I know is not true. So I'm going to reframe to think about what I've learned. And, maybe being single on this Valentine's Day means actually something really positive for you because you got out of a toxic relationship, or because you knew that that relationship wasn't going to be your end all be all. And now you open yourself up to new possibilities. Whereas if you were still in that relationship, that wouldn't be true for you. The next one is when we are in our shit and we feel like we're like a failure at life because you're single. I hear this all the time, as if being in a relationship somehow defines your worth. Yes, we are social creatures. Yes, we want to be in relationships. One of our needs is love and connection. However, you're going to have bouts where, until you're married or in a committed relationship, that you're alone. And that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or you're failing at life, right? It doesn't mean you're behind. It doesn't mean you're unloved. It doesn't mean that you're doomed to be alone forever. I hear that all the time. And you guys have to think about these behaviors that I'm talking about, these self-sabotage, because you're going to act in a way that belief causes you to act. If I feel like I'm doomed, behind, I'm always going to be single, my behaviors are going to mimic that. And that is only going to cause the outcome to be the same, to only re-emphasize that I'm going to be alone forever, because I'm going to be this kind of doom, gloom, Eeyore, not going out, not enjoying myself, not taking care of myself even. And that's going to ultimately affect how I show up in relationships, right? And so really reframing that, like I said, being single is not a problem. This is actually an opportunity for me to learn about myself, right? This is an opportunity for me to learn from the past relationships, the things that I need to work on, right? Because remember, might be deja vu, but it also might be you. What is the you part of it? And so learning the behaviors, learning the thoughts behind those behaviors, being very aware, if I'm doom scrolling on social media, that's not good for me. That's only making me spiral more. If I'm replaying the last relationship I was in and being tempted to text that person, you're only going back into a pattern, an evil that you know, right? And they say the evil you know versus the evil you don't know. Nope. I don't believe that when it comes to relationships. It's evil. We don't want it. It's keeping you from what you want, which is a healthy relationship, right? And your self-worth is not tied to who you are with. You've seen many people, many people who are in relationships who still feel terrible about themselves. You probably also know people who are single who have amazing relationships with themselves. So we want to reframe those thoughts about your worth and being single. You will not be alone forever if you do the things I teach you in this podcast. All right. Next one I wanted to emphasize is we are not doing any sort of desperate dating decisions on Valentine's Day. So avoid that kind of, you don't go on Raya, don't go on Bumble and try to get a date for Valentine's Day just because you feel like you shouldn't be alone on that day. You might be like, okay, let's just see what happens on this date. You might know a person you've been casually chatting to or dating. You're not really feeling them, but suddenly you start texting them on February 13th to see what they're doing. Like, hey, what are your plans tomorrow, right? If you didn't want to go out with that person before, then why do we want to go out with them now, right? Loneliness is not the reason, my dear. Loneliness is not the reason for you to go out with a rando or that guy you slept with 2 months ago and can barely remember his name. No, we're not doing that. We're not making desperate dating decisions. You instead need to call your girlfriend or take your dog on a date. Take yourself on a date. I think it would be awesome for a single person to go out by themselves on Valentine's Day and sit at the bar, talk to the bartender. Like, there's probably other people sitting at the bar that are not in a couple that you could talk to, because usually bars have single seats. So just a thought. But again, just make sure that you aren't just going out with someone because, again, it's Valentine's Day. Hang out with that friend or do something by yourself. The next one is I repeat, do not lonely and recklessly text your ex. We already talked about not replaying a fantasy of what the relationship was when you know it wasn't. It wasn't. Stop fooling yourself. When you go, what if I text Bobby that's never going to end well. And I promise you, you do not need to check in on them just to see how they're doing on that Valentine's Day or say, Happy V Day, Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you, whatever. We're also not sending them any Valentine's Day. Ask yourself, would I want to send this text on any other day of the week? No. It's like Nick Vile says, he has a book called like Don't Text Your Ex on his birthday, on their birthday. We also don't text your ex on Valentine's Day. The what if is what is instead of what if. What is the facts of the relationship, and you are not going there, my dear. You need to put your phone away. You need to throw it somewhere. You need to text your mom. Text your mom or dad instead, because that will be much more helpful than texting your ex. Okay. Next one is the comparison game, right? So again, social media, we already talked about this. We also know social media is fake. It's everyone's highlight reel. People are going to show all of the fun times they had over the past year for their forever Valentine, as they say. And that's not showing you the fight they got into last night. It's not showing you the fact that, they haven't had sex in 6 months. It's not going to show you the fact that they are financially struggling and hate each other or sleep in different rooms. A cute Instagram post doesn't mean a cute relationship. Okay. It means that same couple could be posting paragraphs today and be fighting tomorrow. And you don't know any of that. So instead, we are not going to compare ourselves to any couple because every couple is different. Not everything is the same in every couple. Like some things are more important to some couples than others as well. And so for you, like not getting caught up in that comparison, of course, of couples themselves, but then also, just realizing like, oh, see, she has it. You don't know what she has. She's just showing you her best. It would be hilarious if people actually showed their shit for real. Like my husband and I got in an argument last night. I was projecting onto him and I apologized to him for that this morning. And it was bad. I mean, it was bad because I wasn't taking care of myself. I did ask him to be aware of something. And then when it was happening and I needed him, he didn't necessarily handle it the right way. So then that kind of was the camel that broke my back and I projected on him and then I had to apologize. Right. And if you look at my social media, it's a picture of us out, and so I'm not going to put that I got in a fight with him. Right. So learn from me that there's just a cute picture of him on social media this morning when afterwards we got in a bit of a tiff and your girl had to apologize. Yay. Okay. Next thing, retail regrets. Do not spend that money to fill the void. Like, yes, treat yourself, but like, don't go blowing $500 at Sephora just because you're single. That's not self-care. It's emotional spending. Okay. You're like, it's self-care. No, you're emotionally spending to fill that void, excuse me. And instead maybe plan something meaningful, right? That doesn't necessarily have to be a splurge or doesn't have to be expensive, nor does it have to be reactive. The other part of that too is I feel like sometimes like women will change something significant about themselves during things like this, especially breakups. Like I remember completely changing my hair. We also don't need to make any change. Revenge diets, big changes of your hair, crash, body, crazy workouts. Like suddenly the urge to start a juice cleanse on Valentine's Day or want to go do 2 workouts that day. Like, let's just pause. Let's just take a little breather. Let's pause. Your worth isn't measured by abs. You would not have a partner. I hear that all the time. I don't want to be sexual or date because I don't look great. There are people out there in all different types of bodies who are in love. Has nothing to do with the way you look, but you've learned that your worth is tied to your appearance. And so you think that you have to look a certain way to earn love, and that is not the truth. So please do not go into any of those tailspins, chopping your hair off, going into a juice cleanse, doing 10,000 workouts that day. Just take a pause, move your body if you want, but do it in a way that serves you. The way I teach it in my Mindset of Matter program, which is my full body health program, whole health program, is we respect our body. We respect our body because we move it when we need to move it, and we respect our body when we rest it when it needs rest. Okay, so number 6, I think that's number 6. Don't go into toxic positivity or forced fun. Okay. You don't have to fake loving being single either. And we're going to have a whole episode on this. Pretending it's the best day ever. If you don't feel like blasting single ladies or hosting Galentines, that's also fine. You can sit on your couch and watch traders and eat whatever and hang out with your animal. Totally fine. You can do it with no makeup on, in your favorite jumper. I don't care. You don't have to overcompensate. Just do what feels natural to you. Okay. You also don't need to ignore the day entirely. Like, we know it's fucking Valentine's Day. It's everywhere. So acting like it doesn't exist or angrily avoiding all the pink and red things is not going to make it go away. Okay. It's just not the move. Just acknowledge it without letting it control you and just move. It's Valentine's. Thank you, Saint Valentine. I'm going to buy myself some chocolate or go get a crumble cookie and watch traders. And that is fine. Okay. So we've talked about some of this, self-sabotage behaviors, things they want you to avoid. And so now we're going to go into our cute versus cringe segment, which we will do here often. So is it cute or is it cringe? So number 1 is texting your ex on Valentine's Day. You already know the answer, cringe. If you weren't texting them before February 10th, why are you all of a sudden thinking of them on February 14th? Nostalgia is a liar. Don't do it. Number 2, buying yourself flowers just because you love fresh flowers. And I mean, let's face it, Valentine's Day, the good flowers are out. We love that. It's cute. If you would do this on a random Tuesday and you want to do it on Valentine's Day because all the great flowers are out, great. However, if you're doing it with the I don't need a man energy, it's giving performative independence, and maybe don't do that. Okay. But if you're just doing it because you love the flowers, there's beautiful flowers out there, usually on sale, then do it, girl. Get it. Okay. Going on a last minute first date just to not be alone. Cringe. Valentine's Day is the absolute worst time to see how it goes. So don't do that. Okay. 4, posting a dramatic, I don't need a Valentine, I have myself Instagram story. Now, this one depends. If it's cute, if it's casual self-love post, we love that, go for it. If it's giving, I have zero feelings about this day, that's not the energy we want. You might want to recheck that. So we don't even need to post that day, actually. You could post the traders that you were watching with your crumble cookie. Great. Ordering a heart-shaped pizza and eating it in your pajamas. Cute. Honestly, again, we already talked about that. Live your best life. Extra point, it's if it comes with some wine and some reality TV. Okay. Re-downloading all the dating apps just because it's Valentine's Day. Cringe. Don't do that. If you wanted to swipe, you would already be on the apps. The Valentine's Day panic and stall is never going to lead to anything good. And plus, I bet people go on there who are very manipulative to be like, oh, all the girls, I think dudes particularly, all the single girls are going to be on. So I'm going to jump on, and we don't want them because they're probably fuckboys. Number 7, having wine night with friends and watching some cheesy rom-coms. We love that. Solid tradition. We love it. Bonus points if you can make it a drinking game where you drink for any of those common rom-com cheesy things. Okay. Buying a last minute gift from your dog to yourself. I put depends on here. If you do this every year and it makes you happy, cute. If you're making the cashier write to me from my dog, cringe. We don't love that. We might need to have a coaching session. I would do this because my dog loves me. You already know this. Going on a solo dinner date at a fancy restaurant. I put depends if it's part of your I love treating myself routine already, which I used to do this all the time when I would, like in graduate school, if I did well on an exam, I would go take myself out to dinner all the time. I loved it. It was so fun. But if you're going and you're starting to like stare at the couples, right? Or you feel like main character energy in like a sad movie, maybe no, or maybe no. Okay. So that's why I put depends. And then posting a throwback couple photos from past relationships with a cryptic message, big cringe. If you got to go this time last year, no, don't do it. Don't post an old relationship pic. You need to lock off. You need to take a walk. Okay. Cringe, 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 cringe. All right. So that's my cringe versus cute. If you have any cringe versus cute that you'd like to add in the comments below, please do. And if you are single on Valentine's Day, we are going to talk about what to actually do on that day. Now that's going to launch the day of. So make sure you hit that notification button so you do not miss that episode. Like and subscribe if you have not done so as well. We have our YouTube channel, Dating Deja Vu. We have our Instagram, Dating Deja Vu. And you obviously can find this anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you like this information and you're feeling generous, please also give us a 5-star rating and review, as we are a brand new podcast. That helps me get out to other people. And as I've said before, the more people that listen to this, the more likely you will encounter someone who has learned these lessons themselves. And so I am so hopeful that this is helpful. I hope that this helps you avoid that Valentine's Day shame spiral of being single. We are not doing this again. We're not doing this another year, because it might feel like deja vu, but it also might be you. Goodbye.